We begin by the Mishnah in the bottom of Daf Tes Samud Beis. Zok the Mishnah, Ein bein Shiloi Yerushalayim. There's no difference between the Mishkan that there was in Shiloi and then the Beis Hamikdash that was in Yerushalayim. Ela shebishiloi oichlim kotchim kalim u'maisa sheni b'chol haraya. When the Mishkan was in Shiloi, so they can eat kotchim kalim, which are the karbanos that have a lighter kedusha. In Yerushalayim, they can be eaten in the city Yerushalayim, but in Shiloi, it could be eaten in any other place that you can see Shiloi from there. In Rashi, it seems like even if you could just see the city of Shiloi, that's good enough. And same with Maisa Sheni. Yerushalayim only inside the walls of the city Yerushalayim. That's the difference. And v'kam, but in both places, kachim, nechalim, lefnim and akloim, that the kachim must be eaten inside of the curtains of the Mishkan, which was in Shiloi, or within the walls of the Azara in the Beis Hamikdash. So that's over there they're the same. So the Mishnah, Kedushas Shiloi yesh achreo heter. Now, another distinction between Shiloi and Yerushalayim, not regarding when it stands itself, but after Shiloi was destroyed, or after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. So Shiloi, after Shiloi was destroyed, so then yesh achreo heter, the Yidden had a heter to bring a carbon in another place on any bama, which we spoke about in the previous Mishnah, about the bamas. Kedushas Yerushalayim, once Yerushalayim was destroyed, ein achreo heter. There's no other heter to bring on a carbon on a bama anywhere else. Yerushalayim is considered to be, Rashi brings the pasuk, ala menucha v'ala nachla. Nachla, this is the everlasting inheritance of where the Beis Hamikdash is, only in Yerushalayim and not anywhere else. Sagt the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Shamaiti, I heard, Shemakrivim, bebeis chaynyoi, bizman hazeh, that you could bring a carbon in Beis Chanyoi, even today. Where's this Beis Chanyoi? So Rashi says this was a mizbeach that Chanyoi built in Mitzrayim. He was the son of Shimon HaTzadik, which was one of the Kohanim in the time of the second Beis HaMikdash. And when his father, Shimon HaTzadik, passed away, there's a whole story there in the Gemara and Menachos. There was a big argument and fight between him and his brother. And eventually this Chanyoi ran away to Mitzrayim. And there in Mitzrayim, he built himself a mizbeach and he brought karbanis there. So the Gemara actually, Menachos says that he built it as a mizbeach for Avodah Zarah. The Gemara here is going to say that Rabbi Yitzchak holds that it was not Avodah Zarah, and you could bring in Beis Chanya even Bizman Hazeh, even after the Churban of the Beis Hamikdash. So what does he hold? So now the Gemara explains now the chiddush of what Rabbi Yitzchak was saying, not like what it said in our Mishnah. So number one, Kesava Beis Chanya Lav Beis Avodah Zarah. He holds that Beis Chanya that he built there, the mizbeach, was not for Avodah Zarah. So you can bring karbanis there mitzad that. And also, v'kasavar, Kedusha Rishayna, the first Kedusha, which was there from the Beis HaMikdash, Kitcha L'Shaita, the Kedusha is there for the time when the Beis HaMikdash is standing, but V'lei Kitcha La'asad Lavai. But that Kedusha does not remain in the future. So therefore, after the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, the Kedusha of the place of the Beis HaMikdash is removed from there, and therefore, in any other place, you could put a bama and bring a carbon there. The Chsiv, and he learned it out from the following pasuk. You didn't reach yet the place of Menucha and the place of Nachla. So Menucha, we say, what does the Menucha refer to? Shiloi, where the Eibishter was for many years, the Beis Hamikdash there, over 300 years, that's Shiloi. Nachla is Yerushalayim, and Nachla refers to Yerushalayim. So because it says both in the same pasuk, Makish, Nachla, leMenucha, I compare one to another. Ma Menucha yesh achrei hater. Just like the Menucha of Shiloi, once it was destroyed, there was a heter to use bamas afterwards. Af nachla yesh achrei heter. So to the nachla of the Beis Hamikdash, there's a heter afterwards to bring the karbanis on a bama, and that's what Rabbi Yitzchak was saying regarding the bama that there is in Mitzrayim. There's an additional chiddush that the Mefarshim point out that you see in what Rabbi Yitzchak is saying, that you can even have a bama outside of Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't have to even be in Eretz Yisrael. This was in Mitzrayim here. Sagt the Gemara, Amrulai, they said to Rabbi Yitzchak, Amrit, did you say this point? That you could bring a carbon after the Churban Abayis on a bama, and even in Mitzrayim? Amalahu loy. So he said, no, I never said this. Amar Rave, so Rave said, Ha lekim, Amra, I can swear, and that's the lashon of a lekim, that he did say so, v'gamir l'nalamine, and I learned it from him. So the Gemara says, my time obviously, when he was saying now that he didn't say so, it's because he had charata of what he said. You have this in Gemara a lot of times. When an Amayra had charata from what he said, and they asked him, did you say this? He said, I did not say it. He didn't only say, no, I had charata, because the moment he would say, I had charata, then the fact that he himself said so once, so people would think, could be this credibility to that idea. So in order for them to be, shouldn't be any mistakes about this matter, he would say, I never said so. So it should be clear. So he only said so because he had charata. So why did he have charata? Answer is Mishum the Kashia that Rav Mari, because of the question that Rav Mari asked him from our Mishnah and from another Mishnah. The Moshe of Rav Mari, it says right here in the Mishnah, Kedush as Shiloi yesh achrei heter. The Kedush of Shiloi has a heter afterwards to bring on a bama. Kedush Yerushalayim en achrei heter, but after Yerushalayim is destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, so then there is no heter. So it's clear that you can't bring afterwards. And also there's another Mishnah that says Mishabol Yerushalayim Nesru Bamis. Once Yidden came to Yerushalayim, then all Bamis were not allowed to be used anymore. And they never had a heter again. And this is the everlasting inheritance of where the Beis Hamikdash is, and there's no heter in any other place. This is the Gemara in the end of Zvachim. So we learn out Adarab, in other words. He's learning out Menucha and Nachla. The reason why the Pasuk uses two different terminologies, Menucha and Nachla, is because Menucha is not necessarily everlasting. Nachla means the everlasting inheritance. That's exactly why the Torah changed the Lashon. So we learn out that there's no heter for Obama. So therefore this refutes what Rav Yitzchak said. But now the Gemara says, Tanoihi.
What's with the hekesh?
No, we don't know Adarab. That's the point I was saying. There is no hekesh. The fact that the Torah changed the Lashon is to point out that they're different. Dr. Gemara, Tanoihi, this subject is a machlokes Tanoim. So now, in Bepashtus, it seems like the Gemara is saying that this very question, whether you could bring on a bama outside of the Beis Hamikdash after it's destroyed, it's a machlokes Tanoim. But as we're going to see in the machlokes over here that the Gemara is going to bring, it's not exactly the same machlokes Tanoim regarding this subject that we just spoke about. Let's see inside. So what's machlokes Tanoim? The Tanya, or the other gears here is the Tana. We learn in the Mishnah. Omer Rabbi Eliezer said, Shah Maiti, I heard the following. When they came in the time of the second Beis Hamikdash to build a heichal, and they were still in the middle of the construction. So what happened? They wanted to bring karbanis before it was fully built. So oisen klayim laheichal, v'klayim la'azara. They put up curtains in the place where the heichal is going to be built, so in order to enclose it as a heichal. And they also put up curtains in the area where the azara is going to be to enclose it as an azara. But there was a difference between them. In the heichal, so they would put up the curtains in the place where the heichal was going to be, but where did they build the walls of the heichal? Outside of those curtains. Because you're not supposed to go inside the place of the heichal. Just like you're not supposed to go inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim and just be there and have a gnaw from looking in the place of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. You're not supposed to go stam inside the heichal either. So therefore they made the curtains in a way that the building is going to be outside of the curtains that they put up. By the azara, they built the walls of the azara inside of the curtains. But the point over here is that in order for them to be able to bring karbanis during the time of construction, they had to first have the Beis Hamikdash, at least with curtains, put up so that they could bring the karbanis then. Rabbi Yeshua said, Shamaiti, I heard differently. Shemakrivin avapisha ein bayis. You could bring karbanis even if there's no Beis Hamikdash. Oichlin kache kachem alpha pishen klayim. You can eat kache kachem in that area even though there's no curtains yet. Kachem kalam and ma'isasheni. You could also eat kachem kalam and ma'isasheni in Yerushalayim alpha pishen chayma even if there's no wall. And what's the reason? So Rabbi Yeshua explains. The original kedusha that was there before. And the first Beis Hamikdash, over here, would be talking about. So Kitchel Shaita, the Kedusha is there then, and also the Kitchel Asad Lave. The Kedusha remains for the future, and even when the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, and now they're still in the middle of the construction of the second Beis Hamikdash, you don't have to have the second Beis Hamikdash rebuilt and the Klayim and the curtains or the walls put back up before you can institute the Kedusha again. The Kedusha remains there. Okay, so that's what Rabbi Yeshua says. Now the Gemara explains. So what does it seem from this? Miklal. So can't you understand from this that Rabbi Eliezer Savar, that the first Tana in this Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer holds like Kitchel Asad Lavai, that the Kedusha that was there in the time of the first Beis Hamikdash is not there now in the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, and therefore, in order to be allowed to bring the karbanis, you have to put up the curtains for the heichal and curtains for the azara. Otherwise, the Kedusha is not there anymore. So right here, you have a machlokes regarding this subject after the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. Is the Kedusha still there or not? Okay, but now as Taisus points out, what I was beginning to say before, that they're not arguing about whether you could bring karbanis outside of the Beis Hamikdash on a bama in the time when the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. What they are arguing about is this subject of Kedusha Rishayna, whether Kitchel Shaita V'loi Kitchel Asad Lavai, or it is Kitchel Asad Lavai regarding what? In the place of the Beis HaMikdash. Could you bring a carbon in the place of the Beis HaMikdash after the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed? So it's not exactly the same kind of machlokes. And that Taisus says you must say so, because otherwise, why did Rabbi Yitzchak retract from his opinion? The Gemara says that they asked the question to Rabbi Yitzchak, you have a Mishnah that says against what he said, but here it says Ketanoi, that this is a machlokes Tanaim, so maybe he could follow the opinion of another Tana. The answer is, no, you don't see over here any Tana that holds you can bring a carbon on a bama. All you see is that in the place of the Beis HaMikdash, you can bring a carbon even when the Beis HaMikdash is not yet built. This is a source for this machlokes. But the Gemara does not accept this source. Amalei Ravin Rav Ashi, mi mai. How do you know that there's an argument here? Dilme, maybe the Kul Alma Kedusha Rishayna Kitchel Shaita Vik Kitchel Asad Lavai. Maybe everybody holds that the first Kedusha is there for the time when the Beis HaMikdash is standing, and it's there afterwards also. Umar, my deshmiya lekamar, Umar, my deshmiya lekamar. And each one of them is just reporting a difference regarding what they did during the time of the construction of the Beis HaMikdash. Did they put up klayim or did they not? But the basis of what they're saying is not an argument regarding this subject, whether the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash was still there before they put it up or not. Not at all. As Rashi, one second, the Gemara is going to explain, one second. So as Rashi says over here, the Gemara is just bringing two statements of two Tanaim. It seems like that they're arguing with one another, but no, the Gemara is bringing a statement of one Tana of what happened, a statement of another Tana of what happened, but not because they're arguing about this subject of Kitchel Asad Lavai. Everybody holds that the Kedusha was still there. So now the question is, if the Kedusha was still there, so then why did they have to put up curtains during the time of construction? The Kedusha is still there, whether you have the curtains, whether you don't. So the Gemara explains that. Now, if so, according to Rabbi Eliezer, who needs these curtains? They only need it just for modesty, for the karbanis to be brought. It shouldn't be in this exposed outdoor area. So they put up these curtains that it should be a closed area. But not that they would not be able to bring karbanis without this. So the machlokes is just going to get to this detail. Did they go and put it up and make this sneeze or not? But everybody would agree that the be'emes, the Kedusha, is still there. So from this Mishnah, there's no raya. So the Gemara brings now another source. And here, you're going to see this same concept, but not regarding the Beis HaMikdash itself, but regarding the cities in Eretz Yisrael. Elo, kihani tanoi. You have the argument here, in these tanoim, in this braisa. The Tanya, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yosi. Lama manu chachamim es elu. Why did chachamim count these cities? So Rashi says, what is these cities over here? It's referring to the cities of Eretz Yisrael that are surrounded with a wall. Cities surrounded with a wall have specific halachas to them. You can't redeem a house that's sold in it past a year. What we learned before, that you have to read the Megillah on the 15th, and so on. There's certain halachas. And if you look there, it's a Mishnah that counts 9 cities, Rashi says. It counts 9 cities that had a wall around it. And the Braisa here says, why did the Chachamim count only these 9 cities? Weren't there any others besides these 9? So the Braisa there explains, Shekesha'olu b'nei HaGoyla, when the Yidden came up from Golus, Motzu es elu v'kitchim. They found these 9 cities and they sanctified these 9 cities. Avalorisha. How do you sanctify a city, by the way? There's a process how you do this. You have to bring a carbon taida. There's a process how you could re-sanctify a city again after it was destroyed. So these 9 cities, they re-sanctify these cities again. Avalorishainais, but all the other cities that had walls surrounding them and they were part of the holy cities in Eretz Yisrael, Batlu, Mishabatla ha'aretz. The Kedusha of that city was annulled after the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael was taken away when the Eretz Yisrael was destroyed. So that's what Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi is explaining. So Alma, what do I see from this? Kasavar, he holds Kedusha Rishayna Kitchel Shaita V'loi Kitchel Asad Lavai. That once Eretz Yisrael is destroyed, the Kedusha does not continue. Those cities that they re-sanctified again, it gets a new Kedusha, and those cities they did not, does not have any Kedusha whatsoever. So we see this point regarding Eretz Yisrael. So now where's the other opinions? The Gemara says, Vira minu, a contradiction was asked on Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi's opinion, because Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi. And another Braisa, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi said differently regarding this. Were there only these 9 cities that were surrounded with walls? There's a pasuk that says, Shishim ir kol chevel Argov, that even just this area of Argov had 60 cities. And what does it say regarding those 60 cities? And all these 60 cities were fortified cities which had tall walls around them. So we see that even just in this area, there was 60 cities with walls. So how could there be only 9 that were mentioned there in the Mishnah? Elo, so he says, why did Chachamim only count these cities, these 9 cities that they had walls? When the people from Galus came up, so the Gemara here, in the Hemshech of the Braisa, just take a stop a second there. In the Hemshech of the Braisa, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi is going to say that when they came up from the Bnei Agayla, so the Gemara jumps ahead of itself, but on Amud Beis, the Gemara is going to say that. Okay, no, let's first see the lashon of the Gemara inside. So the lashon that he uses over here is Matzu Elu. They found these 9 cities, V'kitshum, and they sanctified these cities again. Okay, now this is basically the same like he said before, Kitchum, that they sanctified these cities again. But the Gemara says, but in this Braisa, it disagrees with this Kitchum. He did not sanctify the cities again. As we'll see in the Hemshech in a moment. And the Gemara clarifies, Kitchum? Did he sanctify them again? He didn't sanctify them again. Hashta ha'amri, now we say, as we'll see right here in a moment, in the continuation of this Braisa, Leitzriche lekidushi. You do not have to sanctify the cities again. So what does it mean that they sanctify them again? So the Gemara clarifies and changes the girsa. Elamatzu es elu. These were the cities that they found, umanum, and they counted these cities. But not that they sanctified these cities again. Now here comes the continuation of the Braisa. V'loi elu bulvad, not only these cities, elakol shetala locha mesayris biyadecha mavisecha shemukefes chaymim yimais Yeshua benun. Any city that you have a tradition from your fathers that this is a city that had a wall around it, all the mitzvahs of the cities that have a wall around it are apply there. The previous kedusha that was there then, and the kitcha lasted lava, and it's also there in the future. That's the conclusion of this Braisa. So what do you see in the conclusion of the Braisa? When it says 9, it's because those 9 cities, they knew exactly which those 9 cities were that they had a wall around them. But then the Braisa continues, not only these 9, any city that you could determine that they had walls around them will have the same kedusha of a city that had a wall around them. Okay, so now what happens now? So we have Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi in one Braisa, and we have Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi in another Braisa that's saying 2 opposite points. Kashi the Rabbi Shmuel, the Rabbi Shmuel. In the first Braisa he said that they had to sanctify the cities again, because the previous kedusha is gone. And here he says whichever ones you know for sure that they had the walls from before has the kedusha now. So the Gemara answers, so you have to say that there's 2 Tanoim that are arguing what Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi held. Or I can tell you, Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yosi Amra. The second Braisa is not Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi, it's Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yosi. The Tanya, because we're not Braisa, Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yosi Amar, Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yosi said, Asher loy chayma, that it has a wall. So when the Torah says it has a wall, it says it loy with a vav and loy with an aleph, which means you read it loy also with an aleph, afal pisha ein loy achshav, even though it does not have any wall now, and v'haya le'kaydin l'chein, and it had a wall before. And even when it does not have a wall now, it still has the kedusha. So therefore, from here I see that Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yosi holds that the kedusha from before still continues now. The kedusha is even today as well. The Rishonim point out that this raya from the pasuk Shaloi Chayma that he's darshaning Afal Pishein Le'achshav is really not a good raya at all, because this pasuk maybe could be speaking about when the Beis Hamikdash is still standing, and when Eretz Yisrael is still settled before Eretz Yisrael was destroyed. And then we're saying when Eretz Yisrael is still settled, if the wall of the city fell down because it had a wall when Yeshua came into Eretz Yisrael, that it still has the status of a city that has a wall around it. We're trying to prove something else, even after Eretz Yisrael is destroyed, and it still has the kedusha. So what's the raya from this pasuk? So the Ritva says the raya is not from the actual pasuk, but from the lashon that Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yosi used in the drasha, because he uses the expression Aval Pishein Lo Achshav, because he uses the term Achshav, and he's speaking about his times, and he was after the Churban. So you see that he's trying to say that the kedusha continues even after the Churban of Eretz Yisrael. But truth is that from the pasuk itself there is no raya at all. Okay, this is the conclusion of this inyan. Yeah. He was saying it mitzad asvara of kedusha rishayna, kitchel l'shaita, kitchel asad lavei. Okay, that diuk of achshav was his own svara. The concept of chalal, a wall falling down, that you learn from the pasuk, but the fact that it's even achshav, that's because you hold that the kedusha is still here. Now, the next few blot here, I think till basically the end of the Perek, is the Gemara darshaning all the psukim of the Megillah. It's starts from the beginning and it goes through the whole Megillah. I don't know, the whole Megillah, but a lot of different drushes in the Megillah. Talk the Gemara, Vayihi b'meach hashveirosh Amar Rab Levi. So Rab Levi said, V'itayim Rab Yonasan, Dava zeh mesayris b'yadeinu. This is the tradition we have in our hands. Me'anshei knesses agdoila. Kol makim shenema vayihi. Anytime it uses in the Torah the expression vayihi, ein el lashon tsar. It's a lashon that there's trouble coming. And we start with the Megillah. Vayihi b'meach hashveirosh have a Haman. Then there was a Haman that brought the decree. Mefarshim add to this, even though Haman only starts in the next Perek. And in the beginning, things were very good for the Vayihi b'meach hashveirosh, and he made a festive meal, and the Yidden were having a very good time. But even before you come to Haman, the cause of Haman's Gzeira was the very fact that Nene Musadasa Shalai Serasha. So that's already the problems. Vayihi b'mei shveita shveiftim, the beginning of Sefer Rus, and what comes right afterwards, Haverav, there was a hunger in Eretz Yisrael. Vayihi kehechal adam laroiv, that people became, there was a lot of people, this is in Bereishis, Vayar Hashem kiraba ras adam, the Eibusha saw all the evil, and that brought about the Mabel. Vayihi ben Nasa mikedem, this is by the Deir HaFlaga, they traveled eastward, Hava nivna lanu ir, and they wanted to build a city, the Deir HaFlaga. Vayihi b'me'am Rafel, what happened then? Asa Mulchama, they made a big war. Vayihi b'yais Yeshua b'Yerichai, and Yeshua was in Yerichai, and what happened? V'char b'shlufa b'yada, a malach with a sword came to him, because we learned this in the Gemara before, he wasn't learning Torah, and so on. So that was something negative that happened then. Vayi Hashem es Yeshua, the Eibusha was with Yeshua, Vayimalu b'nei Yisrael, and the Yidden sinned. Vayi ish echad min haram asayim, this is the beginning of Shmuel, and what does it say afterwards? Ki es Chana of Hashem, v'Hashem saga rachma, that he loved Chana, and the Eibusha did not give her any children. So that's also a tzar. Vayi kizak in Shmuel, and when Shmuel was old, and then his children were appointed, v'leholchu bana b'drachav, but his children did not follow his ways. Vayihi David l'chol drachav maskil. David was in all his ways very successful. Vashem imoi, and the Eibusha was with him. But why does it say Vayihi? Because then it says Vayihi Shaul oyen is David. Shaul had a bad eye in David. Vayihi ki yashav hamelech bebeisai, and David the Melech sat in his house after he finished all his wars and he wanted to build a Beis HaMikdash. The Eibusha tells him no. Rak ato letivna abayis. So all these places we see that Vayihi means it is a tzar. Frag the Gemara, here I'll bring you Vayihi, which is a simcha. But it says Vayihi b'yayim hashmini, the 8th day, and they put up the Mishkan. V'tanya, we learned in the Braise. Oisei hayayim haisa simcha l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On that day, the joy by the Eibusha was kiyayim shenivru by Shemayim v'aretz, like the day that heaven and earth was created. Why ksiv acha Vayihi b'yayim hashmini, and ksiv hasam Vayihi erev Vayihi boike yayim echad. So we see that Vayihi is a lashon of simcha. Another question. No, actually here, so this the Gemara answers, Hashachiv Nadav Avihu, but there was also a tsar on that day because Nadav and Avihu passed away, and that's why it says Vayihi. But the Gemara asks another question by the first Beis HaMikdash. What does it say? Vayihi b'shmainim shana va'abe mei shana, 480 years after Yitzis Mitzrayim, I believe it is. And over there, what happened? That they built the Beis HaMikdash. So it's only something positive that happened. It's a simcha. Another pasuk where it says that there's no tsar. V'aksiv vayihi kashera Yaakov es Rachel. Yaakov came to Haran and he saw Rachel. And it says vayihi. There's no tsar that happened right then. And also v'aksiv, and going back to the pasuk we mentioned before, vayihi vayivoike yemechad. The Eibusha creates the world. It says vayihi. What kind of a tsar is there? Vayike sheni. The same it says the second day. Vayike shlishi. The third day as well. And all the other days. Vayike tuve. There's many times it says in the Torah vayihi, and it's not a lashon of tsar. So the Gemara explains, Amar Ravashi, Kol Vayihi, Ikahachi V'ikahachi. Whenever it says Vayihi, it could be sometimes a tsar and sometimes a simcha. But Vayihi Bimei, when it says the term Vayihi Bimei, and it was this and this person's days, Ein El Lashon Tsar. There it's a Lashon of Tsar. And the Gemara says Chamisha Vayihi Bimei Havu. There are 5 times in the Torah where it says Vayihi Bimei. Vayihi Bimei Achashverish, Vayihi Bimei Shavet Shevtim, Vayihi Bimei Amrafel, Vayihi Bimei Achaz, which then there was a big fight then, and also Vayihi Bimei Yehoyakim, which I believe was the last king by the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, and after him the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. So the Gemara Amar Rab Levi, the Gemara quotes another statement of Rab Levi. This whole thing of Vayihi was from Rab Levi or Rab Yonasan, so there's another statement from Rab Levi about another subject. We have a tradition from our fathers. Omoitz va'amatzia. Omoitz, which was the father of Yeshaya ben Omoitz, and Amatzia, which was a king, which was a descendant of David HaMelech, Achamav. They were brothers. My Kamashmalon, what is he teaching me with this? What did he say? Kol kala shitznua beveis chamiyah. Any kala that is modest in the house of her father-in-law, zeiche v'yetza mimenu malachim u'neviim. She will merit and she will have kings and prophets that will come from her. Minalon mitamar. And you learn this from Tamar. Chsiv, by Tamar it says, Vayireh Yehuda saw her on the street on the way when he was traveling, V'yachshavel Zayna. And he thought that she was a Zayna. Why? Kisses upon she covered her face. So the question is, Mishum the kisses upon because she was covered, V'yachshavel Zayna. That's why he thought that she's a Zayna. That's not Adarabah. Zayna usually uncovers her face. Ella, the answer is Mishum the kissa paneh bebeis chamiyah, because when she was a daughter-in-law in her father's house, in father-in-law by Yehuda's house, she covered her face. He didn't recognize her, he didn't know her, so therefore that's how it happened that he had a relation with her. And then Zachsa v'yotzu mimena melachim u'neviim. She was zeiche, and from her descendants there were kings and prophets. Melachim miDavid. Melachim is David that came from Tamar and Yehuda. Neviim, and who are the Neviim? Damar Rab Levi, Mesairis, B'Yedenim Aviseinu, Ometz va'Amatzia Achem Hoyu. Ometz and Amatzia are brothers. Uksiv Chazan Yeshayahu ben Amutz. That Yeshayahu was the son of Amutz. So Amatzia, which was one of the kings that come from David HaMelech, and Ometz, which was his brother, so he also came from David HaMelech. So therefore we see that they were all descendants of Tamar and Yehuda. Rab Levi said another thing. We have a tradition from our fathers. The space of the Aron in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Aron itself took up no space whatsoever. We learned this in the Braise. The Aron that Moshe Rabbeinu built. If you measured in the Kodesh HaKadoshim from each wall on both sides, on Ma'ariv and Mizrach, to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you'll measure 10 amos on each side. And it says that inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, what's this actual size of the Kodesh HaKadoshim? 20 by 20. Or at least the length is Esrem Amma. The Dvir is the Heichal, which is the Kodesh. Now Lefnei Advir, which is the Kodesh HaKadoshim, is 20 amos. There's another pasuk that says, "Kana fakruva echad esa amos." When you have the wings of the kruvim that were there, from one it was 10 amos. So kana fakruva echad esa amos, and the wings of the other kruv were also 10 amos. Okay, now this addition here about the wings of the kruvim. So some of Farshim say that this has to be taken out from the Gemara here because that does not add anything to the point that we're saying here. Okay, be it as it may. The Gemara continues, "Aren gufa heichahava." So where was the Aron itself? If the size of the Kodesh HaKadoshim is 20 amos, and from each side of the Aron you measure 10 amos, so where was the Aron? So you see that this was a nest that it didn't take up any space. This is the Chiddush of Makam Aron Enim in Amidah that shows on the Shechina that was there, Bli Gvul, and the Chiddush here is that the Aron has to have the specific size, what it has to be, 1.5 by 2.5 amos. It says it has to have a specific midah al pitayra, and at the same time no midah. So here this is a Neisa Hafchim, two opposites at the same time. That's the way the Rebbe would always explain it. Gvul and Bli Gvul together. That's the tremendous gili that there was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Going back to the Megillah. Rabbi Yonasan Pasach La Pischa Lahai Parshas Mehacha. When Rabbi Yonasan would begin darshaning the Megillah, so he would start the drasha with the following pasuk. And it says this regarding the Golus of Bavel. V'kamti aleim. The Eibusha says, I'm going to punish them. V'achrati leBavel shem u'sha'ar nin v'nechet. I'm going to get rid of their name and their remnant and their great-grandchild and nechet, the grandchild. What do all these expressions mean? Num Hashem. Shem zeh haksav. Shem means their writing, their letters, that the way they write, that will be, the Eibusha will get rid of that. It'll be forgotten. And sha'ar zeh loshen. Sha'ar, a remnant of them, refers to the language that they speak. Some Mefarshim say that when people write, so they write their names usually on the documents that they write. That's why Shem means writing. And language, usually when you speak to someone, so you come close to him. Sha'ar could also mean a relative, someone she'erei b'sarei. So therefore, this means the language that they spoke, that language will be gone. Taisus actually says it does not refer to Aramaic. Bavel, they spoke Aramaic. It doesn't refer to the fact that the Aramaic language will be gone because it wasn't. It refers to a specific language that the kings in Bavel had, that language was forgotten. Nin ze malchus. Nin means the lineage of kingdom will be lost. And Nechad ze Vashti. Nechad, with the grandson or granddaughter here, it refers to Vashti, that she will be killed. Rab Shmuel ben Achmeni pasach la pischalei parshas Mahachar. Rab Shmuel ben Achmeni opened the drasha for Megillah Esther from the following pasuk: Tachas hanatzotz yala bereish v'tachas asirpad yala hadas. What is this referring to? Tachas hanatzotz, tachas haman arasha. Instead of haman arasha, that's called a natzotz. Why? Sha'as atzme avedizara. Natzotz means avedizara. T'chsevu b'chol ha'natzutzim u'b'chol ha'na'alulim. Na'atzutzim is kinds of avedizara, and na'alulim, I believe, is some kind of a kishuf or something like that. So Natzitz is Haman, Avedizare. So Tachas Haman Arasha. Again, Yala Bereish will come Bereish. Who's Bereish? Ze Mordechai Shenikri Reish L'chal HaShvatim. Mordechai will take his place, which was the head of all the, again, Reish L'chal HaBesamim, that is. He was a Reish of all the Besamim. Where do I see that he's a Reish for Besamim? Shenem Avata Kach L'chal Besamim Reish Mar Deroy. What's Mar Deroy? Metargeminon Meire Dachi. So that's the name of Mordechai. Mordechai is hinted in the Torah in Mar Deroy, the Besamim. And also the pasuk said Tachas Asirpad. What's Sirpad? Tachas Vashti Harisha Bas Benoishal Nebuchadnezzar. Instead of Vashti, which was the granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar Arasha, Shesaraf Refidas Beis Hashem, which burned the Beis Hamikdash. That's called Refidas. Refidas means where you lie, or where the Eibishter's presence is. The Chsiv Refidasei Zahav. The Eibishter dwells in the Beis Hamikdash made of gold. So instead of Nebuchadnezzar, or instead of Vashti, there was the granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar, Yala Hadas, will come Hadas, Zu Esther Tzadekis, Shenikras Hadasa, she's called Hadasa, Shenemba Vehi Oimen Es Hadasa. And the pasuk there concludes, V'hoya la Hashem l'shem, and this will be a name for the Eibishter, Zu Mikra Megillah. This is the mitzvah of reading the Megillah, La'is Eilam La Yikaris Elu Yemei Purim, which will never be forgotten from Yidden. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi pasach la pischalai parshas Mehachi would begin darshaning with this pasuk. V'hoya kashesas Hashem aleichem laheitev eschem. The Eibishter was happy to do good for you. Ken yastis lahara eschem. So too the Eibishter is happy to punish you when the Yidden were evil and when the Yidden deserved them the gzeira of Haman. So the Gemara asks him this: Could you say that the Eibishter is happy when he sees the downfall of Rishayim? There's a pasuk that says, the Yidden, the Eibishter goes out in front of the Yidden that were fighting. Then they were fighting a Mulchama, then with Ammon and Moav, it's referring to. And what does it say? And they said, Hoidu Lashem kilo elam chastai. They thank Hashem, is kind, this is always there, but it misses the words kitayv. It doesn't say kitayv. Why not? Why does it not say here the words kitayv when they thank the Eibishter here? The Fishayin HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sameach ben Palasim Shal Rishayim. Because the Eibishter is not happy with the fact that the Rishayim are having their downfall. Another eye for this, when the Yidden were going then by Kriyas Yamsuf, and the Mitzrayim were behind them, and they didn't come close to them all night, so what happened? Bikshu, Malachi Asharis, Loima Shira. The Malachi Asharis wanted to say Shira when the Mitzrayim drowned in the Yamsuf. Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, my creation is sinking in the Yam, Shira, and you're going to sing. So how can you say over here, Yosis, that the Eibishter is happy when he punishes? Amar Abalaza, who ain't us? The Eibishter is not happy. Avalacherim mesis, but the Eibishter causes others that will be happy to persecute Yidden. The Dekanami, the Chsiv Ken Yosis. V'leiksiv Yosus. Doesn't say that the Eibishter himself is happy. Yosis means he makes others be happy about persecuting Yidden. Shema Mina, this is the proof for this. Rabbi Bar Kahana would begin the drush of the Megillah from the following pasuk: La'adam shetoiv lefanav nasan chachma, the person that was good in the Eibishter's eyes. So he gave him wisdom, v'das, and knowledge, v'simcha, and joy. Who is this? A Mordechai Atzadik. This refers to Mordechai. And the continuation of the pasuk: U'lochayte nasan inyan lesa v'lichnois, and for the sinner, the Eibishter gave him an idea to gather a lot of money. Zeh Haman. This is all for Haman. Why? And the pasuk there says, "La says l'toyev l'fnei alakim." That then all that money will all be given to the Eibishter. Who is this? Zeh Mordechai v'Esther. They got all of his possessions. The Chsiv atasem Esther es Mordechai al beis Haman. That Esther got everything from the house of Haman. Okay, the last one for today. Rabbi Bar Ufran Pasach la Pischalai Parshas Miyacha. He would begin darshan in the Megillah from here. V'samti kisi be'elam. The Eibishter says, I will place my throne in Elam, which is in Shushan. V'avadati misham melech v'sadam, and I will destroy from there the melech and Sadam. Who is this referring to? Melech Zuvashti and Sadam ze Haman. And the ministers refers to Haman. And also Vasadas Banav and his 10 children. I'm just wondering why it doesn't say that Melech refers to Achashverosh. Why does it say Dafke Vashti? Okay, if anyone has an answer.